everyone, and welcome back to my channel for another episode of my Squishy Makeover series, where if you've been here the last few weeks, I've been working on the 6 unicorn squishies. This is where we left off last week, and I was hoping that this week would be the finale, the ending, where I'd have them finished. Unfortunately, that is not the case, which you will see if you watch this video to the end. Sadly, squishies take a very long time, and normally when I do my normal format, I don't like breaking things up into so many parts, and if I do, I usually try working it in a way so it's you see something start and something end at all times. So like normally for this type of project, I would have done like 1 or 2 squishies at a time and had that video be focused on those 2 squishies entirely and then break up the set in parts that way. But for this specific project, I decided to paint them all together at once and just break this video through parts. In one way, it was nice because it was able to let me show a lot more details in the beginning steps, the prep steps, and it also kind of goes to show how long squishies actually take to paint. For me, at least with this project, it was mostly a thing of trying time, which I'll get into more later. But for this week, I started with the pastel portions of the unicorns, and I actually ended up lightening up a lot of the colors. I believe all of them were lightened up a little bit except the pink. I just really liked how the pink and the red was so distinct from each other, and so I wanted to exaggerate that a bit more with the yellow, orange, green, blue, and purple, so they kind of look more like a set when they're together. Here I have finally done all of the pastel layers. I think I did like 4 to 5 or 5 to 6. And then now I'm going to start with the darker colors on the tail, the hair, the feet, and the wings. I believe that took 2 or 3 coats. I didn't bother showing me painting each of these coats just because last week I showed painting the first coats of all of them, and I didn't want this to be super repetitive, nor did I want it to be so long, which is another upside of cutting this whole process out in parts, is that it's not as long as it probably would have been. But now I'm finally getting started with the details, which I'm pulling out my gold fabric paints. And at first I started with the slick paints. I was hoping I could get away with it, but I just couldn't control it and make the line as small and detailed as I wanted, so I had to wipe that off and repaint the area. And so instead I switched gears and started using the slick fabric paint directly onto the unicorn horns, which was actually my original plan for the unicorn horns and the slick paint. I also had more of a matte paint that was still the same gold color, just like easier to use with like a brush and a dotting tool, that I was going to use for the details of the unicorns. But I was hoping I could get by with using it directly from the bottle because it would have been a lot faster. But I decided I'd rather take the time and do a better job than just have the really thick lines. So now, once the wing had dried from where I messed up, I got out my dotting tool and I poured out a little bit of the gold paint, and I tried my best to carefully fill in the details on the wings. And part of the reason why this video isn't going to be the end is because this gold stuff actually needs a few more passes. I thought it was going to be done with just this first one, but unfortunately there are some spots I have to fill. The unicorn horn itself only needed 2 coats, but it took like about 8 hours for the first one to dry, and pretty much the same for the second one. And so a lot of the details that I'm doing are taking close to 8 hours or around 8 hours for drying. And that's why I'm not going to be able to finish it in this week. And you all will have to come back next week to see the end and all the finishing details besides what I'm doing right now. Today's video is just going to end with pretty much the first layer of these gold details on one side. For the red and pink unicorn, I did do the wing on both sides, but that was when I decided I wanted to do a little star detail on all the unicorns, and I couldn't do that and the ear on both sides while laying it down flat to dry without messing it up. And again, this is taking like 8 hours of drying time, which is honestly like the thing that, for me at least, makes Squishies take so long is the immense amount of drying time. Especially certain colors like the yellow and the orange, they typically take a lot more coats because they're so transparent. But I do always enjoy working on Squishies. There's something that is always fun about it, and customizing them and painting them and just making them over. And especially when I'm doing a set like this is now I think my third full rainbow set that I'm doing. I just love how it looks, and although these aren't done yet, I'm very excited to finish them and to see how they look all together. And I will say, I originally wasn't thinking of doing gold for all of the unicorns. Originally I was thinking of doing like more monotone look or monochromatic look. I was thinking of using like pearlescent paint and mixing that in with my colors, with like the pastel colors, to be a pearlescent version of the pastel colors that I used for each unicorn, and use that for the details and for the unicorn horn. But I quickly realized that I didn't have any pearlescent paints, and I kind of just figured that would add more time to this, and I felt like it might be just too much monochromaticness. So instead, I decided to go with gold because I have a lot of gold paints that I don't use too often outside of like unicorns. And I thought it would help tie everything together and make them look more like a set if they all have the same gold detailing. But thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you all have been enjoying this project, even though it's been spread out so weirdly. I really hope you all have been enjoying it, and I hope you all come back for next week to see the ending finally. Thank you all so much for watching. Bye!